You know how sometimes you're reading an ancient text and one line just stops you? Makes you go, wait a second, what's really going on there? Well, today we're jumping right into one of those moments. We're going to unpack a really fascinating theological puzzle about angels, the Holy Spirit, and what sets them apart. So let's get right to the heart of it. The whole thing kicks off with this one big question. Why on earth would angels, who are created beings, get listed right next to God the Father and Jesus Christ in a super serious command? It almost seems to put them on the same level, which, just doesn't quite add up. It's a real head-scratcher. And this is it. This is the line from 1 Timothy that gets the whole debate started. The Apostle Paul is giving Timothy this incredibly solemn charge, and he calls on God, he calls on Christ, and then he throws in the elect angels. So what gives? Why are they there?
And you can see the logical tangle this creates, right? I mean, if you're going to name angels in the same breath, in the same charge as the Father and the Son, doesn't that kind of imply they should share the same glory? It's a really solid objection, and frankly, it needs a good answer. Well, the author of our source text offers a really elegant solution. And it all boils down to this one crucial distinction between two very different roles, the role of a kinsman and the role of a witness. Think of a kinsman as family, someone who belongs by their very nature. A witness, though, they're an observer, someone called in for a very specific reason.
This quote just nails the kinsman side of the argument. The author is basically asking, how can someone who is also a fellow servant possibly free you? The point is, for something like redemption, you need someone who is inherently, naturally related to God, not just another created being in the same boat as you. So, if the angels aren't included as kinsmen, what is their role here? Well, they're called upon as allies, sure, but the key word, the most important part, is that they are faithful witnesses. Their job isn't to save, it's to watch, to observe, and to testify that something happened. Now let's flip that and look at the Spirit. The Holy Spirit is never talked about as just a witness. No, the Spirit is included as the Lord of life and is ranked with God because of natural fellowship. It's not about a temporary job description, it's about an inherent eternal nature. It's who the Spirit is. And you might be thinking, this whole idea of calling on non-divine witnesses sounds, well, a little strange. But as our source points out, this is not a new idea at all. It's actually a super well-established tradition you see all over the place in these ancient texts. I mean, just look at this track record. Moses calls on heaven and earth to witness. Isaiah tells the heavens to listen up. Jeremiah talks about heaven being literally shocked by what's happening. And my favorite, Joshua sets up a plain old stone to act as a witness. So yeah, this idea of calling on the created world to testify, it's a powerful and pretty common rhetorical tool. Okay, that makes sense. But it kind of brings up another question, doesn't it? If you can call on heaven or earth or even a rock, then why were angels singled out for this specific charge to Timothy? There's got to be a reason they were the perfect witnesses for this moment. And the answer is actually really cool. It all ties into their specific foretold role at the final judgment. These texts show that the angels are going to be right there when humanity's fate is decided. So what Paul is doing is incredibly powerful. He's calling on the very same beings who will witness the final judgment to be witnesses to his charge right now. And that brings us right to the core of it all. The reason for their inclusion is totally different. The angels are brought in for a specific task, what the author calls the emergency of the moment. But the Spirit is included because of natural fellowship, an eternal, unbreakable kinship. This table just lays it all out so clearly. Let's just run through it. For their role, you've got witnesses versus the Lord of life. For their relationship, it's fellow servants versus natural fellowship. And for the reason they're even mentioned, it's a specific temporary task versus an inherent eternal kinship. When you see it side by side like this, the distinction is just stark. So when you boil it all down, it comes back to this one powerful, central idea. We're not comparing two beings of the same kind. We're looking at the difference between a being with an assigned function, being a witness, and another with an inherent divine nature. And that leaves us with a bigger thought, one that really stretches way beyond this ancient puzzle. In our own lives, in our society, where else do we draw this critical line? The line between a role someone performs and the inherent nature of who they are. It's a distinction with some pretty huge implications. Definitely something to think about.